Good morning, grandkids. Today is going to be chapter 54 of Young Wizard Dorkly in a Land Far, Far Away. And next Friday will be the final chapter. I'm kind of excited that it's finally at an end. It's been so long, but I'm kind of anxious to start the next story. But I have been considering making a sequel later to this one, and maybe a third sequel. So we shall see how that goes. I'm always thinking something and don't do half of them. Sorry. Anyway, let's continue with this one, chapter 54. In the early darkness of dawn, the guards are standing on the walls around King Bingham. I forgot if he's Bingham. I think it's Bingham City. Conley's father on the mainland. The guards are looking out over the land. They see a family walking up the road from the countryside. The dawn is trying to make a weak appearance as a small group of travelers stop, looking up at what they see. Things are shadowy, and it's hard to see, but they had caught some movement near the wall, up by the gates. The man of the group holds his lantern up so as he sees something in the air slightly moving. They move closer and see that there are bodies hanging from scaffoldings. The bodies are of a man and a woman. The neck of each one tightly fastened in the hanging noose. Their hands tied behind their backs. They are slightly swaying and turning in a weak movement of the air, the rope making a weird creaking against the wooden scaffolding. A young woman puts her arm around her child and turns her away from the sight as they move on up to the gate. "Who are they, Papa?" the child asks. "Are they dead?" "Yes, they are dead, child," the father says. "They tried to kill our king." So you know who they are. Later in the court, the king announces to the citizens there about the executions of his oldest son and his son's wife. He then has his son Marshall come up to the throne. "This is my second eldest son, Marshall. I'm sure that you all know him, and I'm sure that you all will be seeing him more often. He is now my heir to the throne." They both stepped down and walked to the back to the king's dwelling. Marshall is walking with him and says, "I know that I will now be standing by your throne and managing the guards, but this I want you to know, Father. This is a vow that I make on my own life. My main duty will be to keeping you safe, so nothing like this happens again." He embraces his father, and they walk on. King Brigham, might be Brigham, not Bingham, wipes a hand across his eyes and says, "Thank you, my son. I'm grateful to have you as my son." They sit down in a grand sitting room where red velvet cushions are on every chair and couch. Marshall says, "Father, you should draw up papers naming your successors. There's not just me, but my brother Conley also. If anything happened to me, I doubt if most people would even remember about Conley. You're right, son, I'll do that. I just haven't spent any time thinking ahead. He then ordered a servant to bring them some tea. Back on Blue Haven, Wizard Dorkly and Major Bonester, with a soldier and a guard, are milling around in the courtroom, groaning because it's continuing to be a long and boring day. Bonester finally sits down with the guard and sips at a drink. Dorkly hooks a finger at a servant to call him over to where he's inspecting the king's throne. See if you can get a carpenter in here to tighten up the right arm on this throne. It feels a little wobbly to me. And see if you can find a cleaner to come and wipe off the seat. She might do some polishing up on the throne some. And he gave the servant a smile and walked over to where Bonester was sitting. You know, Bone, I was thinking about asking the guards outside the doors to check with the people and see if there's anything that we could help them with. Maybe one or two or something. Not me, Dork, so don't try to get that started, Bonester said. Okay, Dorkly said, and sat down and helped himself to a drink. He saw the soldier resting his head on another table, snoring away. Once King Conley, Inez, and William reached the upper northeast part of the coast, they got out of the carriage and stood there, letting their eyes take in the view all around them. The land was wide and level all around, with a very mild slope down to the coast. The king said, "Well, there's plenty of room to build and a really nice-sized city." "Yes," William said, "and as level as it all is, there shouldn't be a lot of hardship in getting it done either." "Oh, and I'm looking on down to the beach. I can just see families with children enjoying the beach," Inez said. "Also, I think you should have fun businesses and cafes along the slope down to the beach, and more serious businesses up in the city." "Great thinking, Lady Inez," William said, smiling. "I can see it all now." "All right," Conley said. "We've got a good plan in mind. Let's head back home. Once there, William, I want you to find everyone that you need, get some camping supplies for you to stay in, order enough stone and lumber and so on to get started, and let's get this going. I'm going to get a hold of Bonester and have him get a contractor and have the two of them look at each town around the coast and see what needs to be done to enlarge each one of those towns. We are going to start to grow and attract more people into our country. I feel energized to build and expand." The three climbed into the carriage and headed back home. Arriving back home that evening, Conley walks into his courtroom and looks around with a grin at the men he had left in charge to look out for the court for the day. He walked over to a table where a guard was sitting, half asleep. "Well, soldier, doesn't look like you had much to do today." "Yep, I'm really tired," the man grumbled. The king stopped by a couple of men near a column talking. "How did you guys hold up today?" "Well, sire, it was a rather boring day," they said. Conley walked over to General Bonester and said, "I would like for you to put out a missive to all the citizens, letting them know that there will be a huge party tomorrow evening and that I'd like everyone to be there if they can possibly get here. He then looked around the room and said, "You can all go home now." He then turned to Dorkly and asked, "Were there any problems?" "Nah, just a boring day," he said with a grin. "Where's your sidekicks? Did you send them home?" the king asked. "Oh no," he laughed. "They were looking a little scruffy, so I sent them to the barber." At that moment, Grizz and Shuffle were sitting in chairs side by side. An elderly barber, with a monocle perched in one eye, a pair of scissors in one raised hand, was trimming Grizz's short beard and telling Shuffle, "Sorry, but I don't know if there's anything I can do with that fuzz on your chin." So in our next chapter, I think that the whole chapter is going to be about at the party and the ending of the story. That will be my last chapter in Young Wizard Dorkly in a land far, far away. I hope it'll be a good ending. I plan it to be a happy ending. And I'm really looking forward to starting the next story, which will be a mystery, and it will be much shorter. This has been long for me, but I am just happy that I actually finished one. And as I said before, I think I would like to do a sequel to this one eventually, and another sequel. So there's more things to write about on the mainland. That could be one sequel book. And then there could be a lot of things to write about with the son that was banished to the little island. So we shall see how it goes. And I will talk to you all later. Hope you enjoyed today. And bye-bye for now.